SEC. You heard it here first. I'm making a list.
Moving on to the Rams receiver, Brandin Cooks. He was Patriots receiver, Brandin Cooks, last season before being traded to the Rams. Oh, how karma works. Responded to the change of scenery by catching 80 balls for over 1,200 yards this season. Let's just say Sean McVay is happy he's on his team.
I could go on and on about what he's done for this football team, and he's been instrumental in us getting here. I love that guy, and you can't say enough good things about Brandin Cooks. I can promise you this, we're not trading him.
All right.
Eat that.
Eat that, Sean Payton and Bill Belichick. See, how important is Brandin Cooks to the Rams' chances of beating the Patriots on Sunday?
I think Brandin Cooks has really been underrated no matter where he's been, because he's been consistent. 1,000-yard, 1,200-yard receiver ever since his rookie year, since drafted by New Orleans. People would think that there might be some type of problem or issue. With New Orleans, the problem and issue was Michael Thomas. As a young second-round receiver, they knew they were going to have to give him long money, so they traded him off, because if you can get a first-rounder from New England, you make that trade. He goes there, has another consistent. Tom Brady bragged about him. He was everything but a diva receiver. He was the Patriot way right from the beginning, a consummate pro, very, very mature at a young age. And that's why Sean McVay decided that, listen, if I'm going to run this offense here, I got to be able to resurrect Jared Goff's career. I'm going to need some guys that can threaten the field with some speed, because, yes, we want to run the ball. We want to do a lot of motion, but I want to play 3 receivers. I want to play from tight formations where you're not going to be able to bump them. So I believe he's even more effective in this offense. Well, because of formations, you can't get in front of him to prohibit him from getting down the field utilizing his speed. He's an underrated route runner, and he's a great guy to have in the locker room. So people talk about what they did, Les Snead, what they did, Sean McVay. We know that the defensive side, they took care of that with Wade Phillips. But when you bring in guys like Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, you need stabilizing other players like Ndamukong Suh and Brandin Cooks. These guys don't talk a lot. They're the consummate pros, and I don't think we have given them enough credit. We always said, oh, the Rams, they got a bunch of malcontents. No, they don't. They got guys like Brandin Cooks and Ndamukong Suh have been consummate pros. So not only in trying to run this offense, trying to make Jared Goff comfortable, they got a guy that's great. That's why they gave him that contract extension in that locker room.
And usually when you're a first-round pick and you get traded and you've been on 3 teams in the first 5 years, it's because something's wrong with you.
Yes.
Not when you were a first-round pick.
Sammy Watkins.
Sure. That's a really good example. A player that people see the talent, but you can't get it out of him in Buffalo. And then the Rams try to get it out of him, but they don't want to pay him. And the Chiefs pay him. But Brandin Cooks was first-round pick. And then he was traded to New England for a first-round pick. And then he was traded to the Rams for a first-round pick. First player who's been worth 3 first-round picks since RG3, I guess. And RG3 ended up not being worth it, but he was cost you 3 first-round picks. He has been, as C mentioned, his rookie season had 550 yards just because of a lack of opportunities. Every year since then, he's been at over 1,000 yards, and he's been one of the best deep ball receivers in football. I'll tell you this much. The Patriots are very happy, obviously, with their offseason, the decisions they made, even though we questioned it. This trade, they traded him for the draft pick that became Isaiah Wynn. They obviously didn't know Isaiah Wynn was going to play 0 snaps for him. In this specific matchup, they're wishing they hadn't made this trade. Maybe for the future they're fine with it, but they would much rather Brandin Cooks not be someone that Stephon Gilmore and that secondary has to account for this coming Sunday.
Right, and he's more than just a speed guy. You talked about the last 3 years, his consistency, one of the best deep threats we have in the NFL. Him, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown. He's got 42 catches where the ball has traveled more than 20 yards. And he's done this with 3 different quarterbacks. So the only people that have more are those wide receivers that I mentioned. And speaking to him doing it with 3 different receivers, it lets you know his football IQ must be very, very high. And his overall chemistry are quarterbacks being able to figure out what he's going to run, his body language. He must run the route tree very good to be able to do that. Now, people will say, well, he had Drew Brees, he had Tom Brady, now he's got Jared Goff. No drop-off when he goes to the young Goff with the experienced quarterbacks that he had the 2 previous teams.
How hard is that as a wide receiver to come to a new franchise, a new organization, a new quarterback, a new offense, a new offensive coordinator for you, and to be able to put up those same numbers as you have in the years prior? I mean, you got to learn it and then be able to go out and execute.
And he hadn't had the type of offensive talent. Even though he was in New Orleans, they weren't as talented as they are with the Rams. Because when the Rams start today, it's how do I salvage Jared Goff's career? All right? How do I have Todd Gurley? When you're the third mention in what we're going to do offensively, man, you have to be very, very consistent. So he's a stabilizing force for Sean McVay for everything that I want to run. He's not a whole bunch of maintenance. And I'm going to get 1,200 yards. He's going to play 14 to 16 games. And if he doesn't get, Nick, you pointed out last year, if he doesn't get knocked out of last year's Super Bowl, New England's going to beat Philadelphia. He got concussed late in the second half of that game.
And it kind of did a circle looking for a place to run. Somebody came over and crushed
So why is he on his 3rd team now?
Because, all right, so let's just go situation by situation. New Orleans, it was Michael Thomas is emerging as a star in this league, and we're going to have to pay him, and we can't pay him both. So New Orleans said, put him on the market for what they spent on him, a 1st-round pick, and New England said, we're going for it right now. They didn't know how much longer Brady had.
Yes.
Last year, remember, last year they had a very odd offseason where they really seemed to be in win-now mode, which they hadn't been. New England then sees, okay, we actually can get what we paid for him right back. So New England, it's always about value propositions. They don't like giving out big contracts. He was in line for a contract that would have paid him more than Brady. And New England says, hold on, we gave up the 30th pick for you, or 32nd pick. We can get back the 23rd pick, and we got you for a year, so we'll send you out. And the Rams got to him and said, we'll just instantly pay you.
Here's $88 million.
Right. He won't be on another team anytime soon. So it's a very odd circumstance where New Orleans had a player who they felt was better, younger, and they had to pay. New England is just always about winning the transaction and feeling like we can. Remember, they didn't have Edelman last year. They knew Edelman was coming back this year.
That's why I think it's important to know the personality and know he's a first-class guy. He's a consummate pro, everything but a diva, a stabilizing force in any locker room. Go back and read or watch the clips of Tom Brady and what he says about Brandin Cooks and how professional he was from day one when he arrived in New England.
All right, let's take a break. Talk some basketball. Could Kyrie and LeBron reunite in L.A.? That is next on First Things First.
Not so crazy now, is it?
I think you said it.
Nick, if you ever tell me you want away from me, don't try to come back. I'm going to allow you to have the conversation.